I'm Dr. Jeff Kingsley. This is another edition of Riding in Cars with Researchers. Today we are going to interview Caitlin Roberson.
Hi.
Caitlin is a stellar research coordinator who has now moved into management, as happens with stellar research coordinators. You're a site supervisor now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so talk to us about how you got involved in clinical research.
Okay. So I will be with the company 4 years at the end of this month. And I came to this company fresh out of grad school. Wasn't really sure what direction I wanted to go. My background is in health administration, but of course in health administration you're either don't have much experience because you're in classes with a bunch of people who are already in the industry. So it was really difficult to find that avenue and just figure out where I wanted to go. So just by happenstance, I went to a job interview for actually another position in Columbus, and the person interviewing me was like, you know what, you need to look into this company because you're perfectly qualified to work at this place, so I want you to reach out to them instead of interviewing further with us. So it was kind of a catch-22 because like, okay, well I have to do this over again. But I interviewed with CERG at the time and was hired a few months later, and it was just a match instantly. Like I knew after my first week that this was what I wanted to do.
Why? What is it that makes you stay in research?
It's interesting. I had no idea that the facility existed before I was told about it. And it's one of those things where unless you're in it, you kind of don't think about, okay, well, where did this drug come from? And why is it on the market now? And how did it get there? It's the kind of things don't really teach you in college or in grad school, rather. So it's just one of those things where I get to say to someone, hey, I'm a clinical research coordinator. And they look at you and like, you're what?
Right.
What do you do? And why do you do that? And what does it help? So it's one of those things where you just gain a lot of experience, more than I would have gained in any other job that I'm doing. I'm not a nurse by trade, yet I'm doing things that most nurses are doing in the hospital.
Yep.
I'm seeing things that I would never get to see otherwise, and even some nurses and some people that work in the hospital that they don't see unless they work in that field. For example, colonoscopies, liver biopsies. When would I ever have the opportunity to watch those?
Yeah.
So I'm learning something new every day, and sometimes I feel like I should have just gone to medical school.
Nice, and you could totally do it too. Okay, so you just mentioned some of your favorite things. I remember you said you get to see new things. It's always different. You get to see things that you wouldn't get to see in so many other roles, even within healthcare. What are your other favorite things about research? What are the other things that just make it so unique and so interesting to you?
I love the patient interaction. Working, not slighting doctor's offices or anything like that, but working in a doctor's office, you might see one patient one day and then you don't see them again for another 3 months. Or if they only come yearly for their annual physicals, you'll see them again in a year. In research, you're seeing them weekly, 2 times a month, 3 times a month, monthly, sometimes more than that, depending on how often they need to come see you. And it's not just for 30 minutes or an hour. It can be upwards of 6 hours at a time that you're spending with these patients, and you really develop kind of a family type relationship with them. Like I have patients who ask me about my personal life, ask me how I'm doing, how if they can tell that I'm having an off day, things like that. It's just you develop that cohesive relationship, which really gives you better patient care in the long run because they are comfortable enough with you to just not just be their patient, but be your patient, but to be their friend.
Yeah, I agree with that. I just had a patient this morning who just graduated. I've been seeing her every week for 3 months now, and now all of a sudden she goes to every 3 months. Mm-hmm. And so this morning I'm like, I'm not going to see you for 3 months. I've been seeing you every week. Okay, Now research is not all flowers blooming and butterflies flying around. It's got its challenges. Talk about the challenges of being in research.
Personally, for the last year or so, it seems as though I've been receiving really difficult trials. Not that that's a bad thing until it comes to the point of finding that certain patient. I feel like I'm looking for needles in a haystack sometimes. Yeah. And then when you finally find that patient and you get them to where they're on study drug and everything seems to be going great, something happens and they can't continue the study anymore. So this one patient that you've been waiting for about a year to a year and a half is suddenly gone. So you have to start back over from square one and just start looking again.
Yeah, I've said that for years. Research can be immensely frustrating because you do so much work just to find that one person who can make it into the trial. And if you're not finding a bunch of patients, all of that work kind of goes unrewarded.
Right.
That can be frustrating. It takes a certain type of person to persevere. Other challenges?
When that enrollment closure date is nearing and you have a patient that you just couldn't catch sooner and you realize that, well, you're going to miss this go around because of X, Y, and Z. Like the
Yep.
patient we saw last week who was in exacerbation.
Yep.
Unfortunately, she wouldn't be able to go into the study because the date closed before we could get her in.
Okay, what advice would you give to people who are watching, people who are in research or people who are considering a career in research?
I would say go for it. You will be exposed, as I mentioned before, to so many things that you will never have the opportunity to do previously. You'll gain so much more knowledge than really anything else I could think of. Well, I'm sure there are more things, but at the moment I can't think of them. And just take the chance. I mean, I know it may seem scary. For me, my first weekend after doing GCP training was, what am I getting myself into? Especially when the modules take you quite a bit of time, but it's a learning experience every single day. Like, I'm learning something new, even though I'm in the management role.
Yeah.
There's not a single day that goes by where I don't learn something, either about research, about the healthcare industry in general, about billing and coding, things like that. It's just a well-rounded field that you should definitely go for.
Okay, there you have it. Caitlin's advice is go for it. Get involved in research. It might be scary because you don't have a lot of experience. You don't hear about research. You don't know other people that are in research. Go for it, and according to Caitlin, you're going to love it.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
I appreciate it.
No problem. Thank you.
Take care.